You've been sold a lie your whole life. Americans have become debt slaves. As Andrew Jackson said way back in the day, when you get in debt, you become a slave. Now, I made all the mistakes with debt in my younger years. I was also using that money to build businesses, but that's a topic for another day. I'm going to give you some ideas in this video to think about how to become debt-free, why going into debt is just literally the stupidest thing you can do, how to not have shame around that so that you can get out of it, right? You're not going to do anything good for yourself if you're beating yourself up about it. And then how to prepare for the next greatest transfer of wealth in history of mankind. Welcome back to the show. Colin here, the Escaping Fragility podcast, how to become a sovereign, safe, free individual, know your rights, protect your family, seek true sovereignty and freedom, become a mobile, global citizen. That's what I'm here to help you do. And more importantly than anything, I'm here to help you stop thinking and acting like the masses. Become a unique, original thinker so that you can build a life for yourself. And today's topic signifies this perfectly. The idea that you do what other people do. You get pulled along by marketing, social pressure, by judgment, by things like this, until before you know it, you're in debt, you're a slave, you have no idea what happened, you don't even know what you bought with that money. This is just the common tune for most Americans. Most people have no idea how money works. Most people have no idea how debt works. Most people just do things that the media, the TV, social media says they should do because it's other people doing it and they want to do it too. And what you get is you get this facade of life is great. I have these cars and fancy things and I go on trips and I do all this stuff. And then they have no idea what the finances are in the back end or what people have done in the back end. A lot of it's an illusion, a pure illusion. And I want to help you break free from that because debt is something that can literally ruin your life. I mean, people have committed suicide because they've lost money or because they feel like there's no end out. And debt is one of those examples of something that the more it grows, the less likely you feel like you can get out of it. And that's a very dangerous place to be for your finances, but also for your mentality, for your mindset. So since Nixon took us off the gold standard in 60 something, maybe it was 70 something, America has used its fake fiat dollars plus mountains and mountains of debt to imperialistically dominate the world. It's benefited us in a lot of ways. It really has. But for the average citizen, this is a tax. Debt is a tax, government spending is a tax, and inflation is a tax. And the average person has been led to believe that inflation just comes with the territory. It's just a price you have to pay. The idea of investing in gold and silver has had negative marketing around it for years. Wall Street has perpetuated this. The government has forced it upon Wall Street through regulations and things like that, and through these phony instruments, and through this transfer of wealth from everyday people to the wealthy elite, and how the entire system of crony politics and crony capitalism and all these things that aren't actually based on a free market. A lot of people think America's a free market. We've actually become a socialist country, but we've been actually robbing from the middle class and giving to the rich. The debt, the fake dollars, the government spending that always increases, the political system that is based on just kicking the can down the street to the next generation, to my son's generation, to the next incumbent. These things are a house of cards. They are going to collapse. In some ways, if you had debt and they collapsed, it could benefit you, but that's too risky. I'm not willing to play that game. If you want true sovereignty and protection, you need to control your assets, your finances. You need to have real money, gold, silver, and Bitcoin, which is a little bit more risky, but we'll talk about that. And you need to understand how these things work so that you can make decisions on a daily basis to either benefit from the game that's being played or become a slave to what's being played. One thing's for sure, no intelligent person that understands economics or anything will tell you that this system is sustainable. Most of the argument is around if the Fed can prop it up longer. That's literally the world we're at. Everybody knows it's going to come crashing down. It's going to need some kind of reset. Maybe they'll think up something to make it last another 5 or 10 years. I don't know. But at the speed at which they're printing money, at the speed at which government is taking on more debt, at the speed at which the average American is taking on more debt, and the savings rate being almost non-existent, I believe that within the next few years of 2020, as I record this, that we're going to see the greatest transfer in wealth. It's going to be the great crash of those that have paper assets and fake dollars and all these things to people that have real assets like real estate, gold, silver, Bitcoin, and to an extent, stocks and good companies. Obviously, private business ownership as well. People that own assets are going to benefit. People that have debt and have liabilities are not. They're already not. Okay? And so what you're seeing the elite are actually doing is they're using debt. They're printing money, and then they're using those fake dollars to buy assets so that when the inevitable collapse comes, they're going to benefit tremendously. And the elite have been doing this for years. The Fed is a private bank. It has shareholders. It pays a dividend, a fixed dividend. It is not beholden to market forces. It pays that dividend to their shareholders no matter what. It prints money whenever it wants. And every time it prints money, the shareholders, the elite, they benefit. They take those fake phony dollars and they buy up real assets. And that's what you can do too, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how much money you have or don't have. you can buy real money and move your purchasing power, your wealth, into hard assets that are not only going to hedge, they're going to maintain your purchasing power, but they will grow when we have this great transfer of wealth. Let's get back to debt though. First thing is first, stop living on debt. And here's some strategies to do that. Stop paying attention to what people are doing in the media. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. Stop paying attention to what anybody is doing with their money. Because again, you're getting surface level. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know how financially insecure they are on the back end. You have no idea what's going on. A lot of people that appear wealthy on the outside, that have all these toys and boats and cars and houses, a lot of them, they're basically bankrupt because they're negative, and a lot of them are even negative cash flow, meaning a lot of them can't even stay in the green every month. They're in the red every month. So what they do is they go more in debt every single month. This is bankruptcy. That's what it is, because that will eventually run out. And so it'll just be a matter of time before it all comes crashing down and all their toys get repoed by somebody else. And they're back at, square one, just living frugally, trying to pay off this massive amount of debt they accumulated. That's not the place you want to be. Do not fall into monkey see, monkey do. It might mean stop following some of these get rich quick accounts or these gurus that drive the cars or whatever. Stop paying attention to what people around the corner are doing. Stop doing what your family's doing. If they're going into debt and living in debt, detach yourself. Stop paying attention to it. Don't let them convince you, manipulate you. Detach. Start thinking for yourself. And that's point number 2. You have to be willing to force yourself to think for yourself. You have to think differently. If you want to live differently, if you want different results than what the masses have, the masses are in debt. The masses are sheep. They're slaves, even to how they think. If you want to avoid that, you have to start forcing yourself to think differently. And you can find people to follow on YouTube, podcasts, books to read, videos to watch. You can find other people that will give you a way to think differently. And that's what you're doing here. You're thinking differently right now with all this content you're consuming. And that's a lot of what I'm helping people do with Escaping Fragility is I want to help people think differently so they can build a life for themselves. 3, it might require altering your environment. This might mean the friends you hang out with, the family you hang out with, what you do with them. Maybe you don't go to dinners with them. Maybe you don't go to the club with them. Maybe you don't go to the bar Friday night with them or whatever. You have to do things to which you're not going to be put into an environment that's going to encourage you to spend money needlessly and not pay attention to the bill. This is just kicking the can down the street. It's what society has built into you. It's what most people do. And most people, when the bill comes due, when the bill really comes due and everything collapses, they're going to be in for a world of pain. And you that's buying Bitcoin, gold, silver are going to basically be their savior. They're going to come to you. The first things first is make that decision for yourself. Back it up with what you do and what you don't do, where you go and where you don't go, who you hang out with and who you don't hang out with. These are all the first steps into taking control of your financial future and getting out of debt. You have to take personal responsibility and you have to curb things that you might like doing, right? At least for a little bit. So here's some other tips that you can do to start getting out of debt, all right? So start reading books, like I said, following people, start thinking differently, start manifesting your debt freedom. So there's a lot of channels that talk about debt and how to get out of it, et cetera. Find the people you like, follow them, start absorbing content that helps you think that way, and then start visualizing yourself being out of debt. This will help you with your behavior. It will help you with not making bad financial decisions. It will also just manifest things. The way it works, your brain, when you start thinking it and seeing it, you manifest it in real life. Hide your credit cards. Now, if you cannot spend your credit cards, so if you hide them and then you won't use them, then that's great. Keep your credit card open as long as there's not a yearly fee or whatever. But if you can't, if even hiding your credit cards will not prevent you from spending them because you'll just use the money online or whatever, then cancel them. This is not great for your credit, but the reality is if you can't manage credit well, you don't need to have credit. Forget it. This illusion that you need to have good credit is just to become more of a debt slave. I think for most people, if they just demolished their credit and then made it so that they couldn't take on more credit, they couldn't spend more credit, that would be the best thing they could do for getting out of debt, by not going into debt in the first place. So this is just one of those irrational fears that's been marketed to our society that you have to have good credit. It matters because you have to take on that huge mortgage and you want to buy a new car and all these things. When the reality is you don't actually have to do any of that. You could live without credit and you can pay for things that you actually afford or you can rent or whatever. Sell everything you can. So I had a bunch of gear. I had lenses. So I had a bunch of these lenses. I only kept the ones that I'm really going to use. And these were just props on my shelf. And I realized that I was only using this one lens to do YouTube. I wasn't moving the camera. Everything was fixed. The same lights, the one mic. And I had 4 of these for, when we were going to do in-person podcasts. And then I was like, this is just ridiculous. This stuff, there's value tied up into these things. Let me sell these. And then if I ever need in the future, I'll just go on Amazon and buy it. And I'll probably get the most recent upgraded version anyways. I sold mics, I sold lenses, I sold a bunch of other things I wasn't using. And this can apply to anything in your house, your garage, storage, anything you're not using that has value, liquidate it. eBay is super easy. I'm actually surprised by how fast things sell. I used to think it kind of was hard to sell very niche things. I sold $5,000 worth of stuff, probably 5 hours of total time between like shipping and packing and whatever. And it's stuff that would have sat there. And then what I did with that $5,000, I bought silver. That is awesome. And maybe use that $5,000 to pay off debt, whatever. Liquidate things that you bought that have value and then use that to make good financial decisions. Find a side hustle. Make some money on the side. Pour all that money into paying off debt or saving or buying gold or whatever. Look for balance transfer offers. Now in 2020, things are tighter. Credit card companies are tightening up because of the uncertainty of what's going on with the virus and all these different things. So, you got to take some of this advice with maybe it's not the right time or the market isn't going right now. Maybe we need to get to that place where we've stabilized a little bit and then credit card companies will open up again and you can take advantage of these things. So just keep that in mind. Call your credit card company every month even, and ask for an interest rate deduction. Consider a debt consolidation service. Make sure you do your research on that. There's pros and cons. It can hurt your credit for a time being, etc. Now keep in mind, all this stuff is not financial advice. This is just things that I did to get out of debt, and I'm now debt-free in the best financial position I've ever been in my life, while also owning gold, silver, and Bitcoin. We're in a good spot so that if things do collapse, we're going to benefit tremendously. I'm just so sad that so many Americans are going to be caught high and dry. And it's not even necessarily to any fault of their own. Now, of course, if you have a bunch of debt, it is your fault. But in some ways, the entire system is built to feed you debt. And I get it. I was in debt. I did what everyone else did until I finally started pulling the veil back and seeing what's really going on. Here's some strategies. Again, not financial advice here. Consult your advisor, blah, blah, blah. These are strategies for long-term wealth protection and creation. And you can learn more over at colin.coach in my guide section. Buy Bitcoin, silver, and gold. All right. I've been buying a lot of silver right now because I think it's underpriced. I do have a good amount of gold. And I do have a good amount of Bitcoin. I've kind of hit that point where I think I have enough. I'm kind of hold it. And now I'm stocking up on silver. And when I get to a certain amount of silver, maybe I'll start stocking up on gold again. These are real forms of money. You can learn more about these by going to colin.coach, going to my guide section and reading more. You have to do your research before you buy these. Understand what you're getting, what you're not getting, the pros and cons, etc. Second, you can buy income producing real estate. That's outside of my purview. I've only done it a couple times in my life. I'm going to be looking to buy more real estate later on. But right now I'm focusing on precious metals because the real estate market is very uncertain in 2020. Constantly invest in your skills and use those skills to generate more income. So again, this is the side hustle. This is the leveling up, demanding a raise from your employer, finding new businesses that you can help or clients or whatever you do. Continually invest in yourself. It's the best investment you're ever going to make. So these are some tips to think about how to get out of debt, how to then prepare for the crashing of the massive debt we have so that you benefit and don't get swept along in the tide with the millions and millions and millions of Americans that are going to be stuck and they're going to be in for a world of hurt. And so that's why I'm putting out content like this, because I want to help save people from that as much as I can. To get more like this, subscribe, go to colin.coach, hop on the AM5 newsletter, and I hope to see you in the next one. But more importantly, please do something with this information. Take some action, any action, to move yourself into the direction of debt-free, sovereign individual with real wealth for your security and your long-term prosperity.